all that pollution could be sucked into these areas. And basically it'd be big giant areas on top that are built on top and be sucking in like these big fans. And all that pollution would be, fans would be drawing it in, bringing it through, and then it would be monitored. And as soon as these filters got full of pollution, what do? You turn down each terminal, replace the filters, clean them back up, and the filters will be in a special type of filter that you could put them in a solution that all the excess gunk will come right off, and you can add a little bit of chemical makeup into that solution and turn it into soil. And then the filters are clean, and then when they're dried up, you put them in an area that they dry them, and just like that, I guarantee you within less than a year, you'd have 30% more cleaner air, because all the pollution would be sucked out of the and then all we'd be left with would be cleaner air. And guess what happens when people have cleaner air? They have cleaner lungs, and your body is able to heal better. It's so simple. It'd be like this, all these rows of buildings, on the tops of the rows of buildings, they would actually have little places where the airflow in one little section, because if they have about 6 or 8 fans blowing hot air out to cool the whole buildings in the summertime for air conditioning, why don't they have other units on top? It should be a law. It should be a mandatory thing. They should have done that 30, and they should have factory chimneys. That all the smoke are going up from these factory chimneys. It doesn't matter whether it's smog, smoke, natural gas, I don't care what it is. All that stuff should be coming up. Instead of it going back out into the atmosphere, it should be captured and filtered. Those ideas are, no one will listen until the planet is almost dying and dead, and then they'll listen. You know, you can spend billions of dollars of research in something that's not going to do you any good. And yet, why not? Because what's the point? Are people doing this on purpose? Are they purposely making it so that our planet is unhealthy and causing people to be unhealthy? So that they can make $1 billion a year just selling prescriptions to people? So they can say, oh look, you need these prescriptions. Well, you wouldn't really need, I guess a lot of these pharmaceutical companies, if they were to invest into greener products and get out of the pharmaceutical business and reinvest into and just make other certain medicine, honestly, I sometimes wonder if they're doing that on purpose. Because think about it. If I was earning billions of dollars a year selling medicine, I would think to myself, well, Jesus, this is kind of ridiculous. Why do I need this? And what? Makes me wonder if sometimes they don't care. Maybe they say, hey, well, it's okay. It doesn't matter if they poison the atmosphere or hurt people. Because look, as long as people are sick, they can make billions of dollars a year from their medicines that they have to sell. Then they can also make new reasons for treatments for things that shouldn't have to happen. Oh, this company needs $100 million in research for this disease. That company needs $100 million. There's about 10 big companies that need $100 million in research grants from the government in this country and that country. So meanwhile, they got 10 companies are getting $100 million grants for their research, and maybe foundations and people are investing into their big companies. That's $1 billion in research altogether across 10 companies. And maybe another 10 companies gets each one gets $100 million donated to them by these millionaires and big corporations. That's another $1 billion in research and medical development for diseases and this and that and everything else like that. When you consider all that stuff, it's just a lot of these corporations don't care if the air on the planet is being burned up and vaporized into nothing. They don't care if wildlife, bee populations, everything else is dying. People seem to care. No, they don't care enough. Because if they did, this planet could be turned into a golden paradise. It could be turned into, when we read about how beautiful the Garden of Eden was, we have the technology right now, today, to make our parks as beautiful as the Garden of Eden. And there's a few places around the world that are starting to realize this, and they're trying to make their cities green, 100% green. Because the only way we're going to be able to fight off disease, a lot of these people that make these, that research these diseases, each one of them, some of these groups of people, scientific communities, they're all trying to win the Nobel Prize, but they don't want to share their technology because they figure if they share their technology with others, there needs to be 3 types of scientific fields that have to join together to make a cure. I'm telling you, they have to. Like in microbiology, in the people that study DNA, other people that study microbiology, and the other people that study like quantum particles and all that other stuff. If you combine those 3 sciences together in a certain way, and compare notes on the disease and what it does in certain fields of certain parts, studied under different lighting, different spectrums. There's dozens of ways of, then instead of like each of these individual groups of scientists one wants to they want to keep all the knowledge to themselves, a secret under this. They have to keep a secret for that. They're not sharing their knowledge around the world. They're keeping it to themselves because each one is trying to strive for that $1 million Nobel Peace Prize. They want to say that I've changed the. Well, you could change. The easier way to change the world is to share the knowledge. Why not? If they share the knowledge, the world would become. But everybody's out to get that greedy dollar, and they're out to do it. They're not out to share the knowledge. A lot of people that research one type of microbiologist won't share their findings with the people that are studying human DNA. And the people that are studying human DNA, they won't share their findings with the microbiologist. And if those two share their knowledge of microbiology and the people that study DNA, if they share their knowledge together and worked as a team across the world, and they were to do it on a subatomic level, they would the energy flow of the body and how it's made up, they would combine little bits of that and then figure out, okay, germs, certain germs, all living organisms, including germs, have a certain DNA patterns as well. If they were to figure that out, plus microbiology, if they were to combine all that technology together, they would actually find a cure to it. It would be like nothing, but they don't want to share that knowledge with each other because they're thinking, oh, our department only specializes in this. We're going to study this for 20, 30 years until we find a cure. And these other people that study DNA, these other people that study different fields in scientific discoveries, they only specialize in that particular thing. The people that study microbiology, they specialize in that, and they don't share that knowledge with the world. They only share it amongst their colleagues in that realm in the world. Like if they have 20 branches or 40 branches of different colleagues around the world that are working in those fields, they'll share it back and forth. They'll publish the papers between them, and they'll share it back and forth. People that study DNA, they share. If there's 40 schools across universities across the world that study this stuff, they'll share it with those people, but they won't share it with the other departments. You know, the people that study quantum particles and other things, and subatomic particles and other, not quantum particles, but subatomic particles, atoms and other stuff like that are you know, certain like atoms and, well, when you get into that field, basically they study it for different. Some of them do it for physics, but when you talk about the atoms that make up the body, the human body, those guys that study that, they study that one field, and they might share that with 20, 40, 60, who knows how many universities around the world in that specific field. But if they all combine their knowledge together and they had if they could bind these certain things together, they would find a way to cure, because our bodies produce energy, and even cells are made up of energy. And the flow of everything, when you lie down, your blood flow flows through, and when your body is relaxed and your mind is stimulated and you're happy and you're totally relaxed and you're almost between awake and asleep, your body's actually healing itself when you're in that state of mind. Now, if they could figure out a way to do that on a molecular level through your body, they could redirect it. If they could redirect the energy of the cells, and for example, find a way to take the cells that heal you. Imagine if you could take the cells that are going to heal you, and imagine cells that were like, imagine the cells that are in your body that are going to heal you, but you enhance them so much it's like they're pumped up on stereo, or it's like they got muscles and they're flowing through your body and healing you like nothing. Imagine if they could take that technology, combine those technologies, all three technologies together. They could do it in such a way, or they could target the flow of these certain germs and cancers and just redirect it as they pass certain energies through your body when you're lying down on a flat table, and your mind would be in a tranquil. They would just play certain music to stimulate certain part or something in your brain where your mind is in the most tranquil, relaxed state it can possibly be. Then they would give you a substance that would help to regulate the perfect flow of everything through your whole body. And while you're lying there, a certain bit of energy would be passed through your body at a certain points. This is like acupuncture. You just be just like yin and yang or whatever. The flow of your body as you're lying there, all these little fragments of these little diseases would be basically just flowing through your body. Just like, because you got your blood and your water, it just flows through your body. If you look at it on a micro level, microscopic, super small level, on high-tech gear, it just flows through your body. These veins, they flow through the water, and everything else flows through your body like a river. If you were to examine it 1,000 times, it would look like a river flowing down into that's what your body would look like on the inside. And if they could target these certain elements of these certain disease, and if they could just get them just to flow through your body, just evenly, perfectly, and they could get them to all join all together and flow down into a pattern, and they could come out into the area of your stomach, and they could push them through with the help of these certain things that would help to fight disease. And then the next time you go to the bathroom to pee and go poo, it would come out and you'd flush it down the toilet, and you can say bye-bye to your disease. And after a while, once they're into the atmosphere, once they're flushed down the toilet or whatever, or they could just basically whatever. But they could basically, as they're into what happens is, as that stuff flushes through your system, there could be something else that could flush out of your system too that dissolves that bacteria and that thing and cleans it up somehow. There might be a way of doing it. There's got to be something that people can do. It's not conceivable that they can't do it. I mean, we are super smart, and I think that's one of the reasons why they're so slow. It takes them 20 to 30 years to figure out a cure for them because they don't share the knowledge. Microbiology and plant-based biologies, people that discover certain enzymes or certain things in plants that help to create, like when they create aspirin, when they figured out bread mold, when they figured out, Canadian scientists, when they found out that when bread mold dropped into a solution, that's how they figured out how to make penicillin. So I mean, you got to figure, if they share these knowledges across the world and they combine their knowledge, there should be a law. Canada, the States, especially in Canada, we have leading technology. They should actually do it, and I think that's where the key lies. It lies between the microbiology, the DNA of the human DNA, because our our brains from the time when we're young, they're in tune to our own DNA, because they're automatically in tune to us, because they know our subconscious level, our subconscious of our brain is actually in tune with our human DNA, and that's a true factor that people, scientists today are discovering what I've already known for 30 years. It took them long enough to figure it out, but they know that the human brain and the heart, for example, the heart has as many neurons in it as the human brain. The cells communicate back and forth. There's no brain in your heart, but the cells are designed, and that way whenever they've tried to do heart transplants from monkeys, whenever they've tried to do heart transplants from pigs and they put it into a human, your subconscious brain realizes, okay, it recognizes all your other cells in your body and recognizes your own DNA. That's part of you. But when you've got something added like a new heart, well, if it's not human, or if it doesn't have the right rhythm or blood flow, it gets rejected and you die. There's no turning back. But when they got something that's somewhat compatible or close to your own makeup and your own DNA, when that goes into that other heart that's compatible with you, because there's a lot of people that are donors that have a compatibility. When their heart is donated and it has a compatibility with yours, there's a small chance that a lot of these doctors probably don't even think about that, but they do now, is the DNA that when they put it into, once the DNA is, if it has a higher than 8 or 10% or 12% or 20, or whatever, there has to be a certain percent of DNA matchup when they put that heart into you. Because when you wake up, the first thing these people do when they wake up from a heart transplant, what happens? The evidence, I've watched dozens of these documentaries on this stuff. When people wake up from a heart transplant, what usually happens is the brain subconsciously, while you're sleeping, recognizes, yes, okay, all these other organs are yours, this one's new, it's compatible, it does have human DNA in it will accept it. Even though that your brain knows it's not part of your body, if it has if it matches up to your system a little bit, and it has a certain percentage of a ratio, because when you wake up, if that person that had that heart, if they craved KFC food or wine or whatever, you'll crave the same foods as the person that gave you the heart. They have thousands of lists of that all the time, continuously. They frickin' know this in science, and yet they're mindless idiots. They can't even see what's in front of them. Other scientists understand this. Other scientists know this. Our body has energy, and it's interconnected to us. Our subconscious, because our subconscious is built this way, and it's a true fact. Because look, when you're a kid, when you're playing or doing something, when you're young, you go to eat, you want to eat this certain, say for example, you want to eat a certain food. You want to eat a certain chocolate bar or a type of food when you want to have something. And your body continuously for days at a time, even mothers, they crave food. Even kids will crave certain foods. It's because the reason mothers will crave certain foods and when they're pregnant, and even kids when they're, doesn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl, you'll crave certain foods at certain times in your life. And that's to do with the reason why you crave these certain foods in your life is because your body is trying to tell you, your subconscious is trying to tell you, you need this certain sugar, or you need this certain, that stuff's cooked but it's cooling down if you want to have some of it.
Making a video?
I don't think she is, no. Hey, listen, this here, I'll show you what this is sometime. I wanted to show you this